Lamont Wade Jr. of the San Francisco Giants, late night Lamont, for the year, he has corralled an 896 OPS. He's got 2 bombs, but don't let that fool you. 168 WRC plus and an F WAR of nearly 2. He's got a year and a half of club control. He has been the Giants' best hitter. Go look at his Savant page, people. You want a fun exercise? Go on to Lamont Wade's baseball Savant page and pull it up, because it is, we've used the term bright red Kool-Aid on this podcast before. That's what his Savant page looks like. It is bright red. So how are we feeling?
Let's put to some context of how good his Savant page is. At the time of this tweet from Michael Fisher of Codify, so he listed out how many 100th percentile StatCast rankings you have on your page. And he listed, it was a ranking of players in baseball. So Aaron Judge leads all of baseball. He has 9. Juan Soto is second. He has 6. Should be unfair. The Yankees have the top 2, but is what it is. Bobby Witt and Luis Ariz each have 3. And then at 2, the list goes Shohei Ohtani, Giancarlo Stanton, O'Neal Cruz, and Lamont Wade. Sounds like a group you would want to be a part of. This is the best guy on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a problem here. So I mentioned above with Michael Conforto. The Giants are in the playoff hunt right now. They are 500, a 500 team that is right there for the third wild card in the National League. Time will tell whether they will be there in 2 months, but the third wild card offers a lot of optimism to teams. So not only is Lamont Wade under contract next year as well, meaning the Giants don't have to deal him if they don't want to, but he's also their best player. So asking a contending team to trade their best player in the middle of a playoff chase is a steep ask. And with the Giants not being pushed into a corner, with him not being a free agent until after next season, the price for a platoon bat, pretty much, if what Lamont Wade has done, he's only had 12 at-bats against lefties this year as a left-handed hitter. Doesn't that seem like a little much?
Here's the only thing I'd say. I know the Giants are within a couple games of the wild card. They're also 3 under 500. And look, the NL wild card has been awful this year. That third wild card specifically, terrible. I will be interested to see what that wild card standings page looks like at the end of July. If anybody's gotten hot, if anybody's caught fire and created some separation, I don't know. But if the Giants are really trying to get the last wild card spot with a 78-win season, that doesn't feel like a team that's winning the World Series. That doesn't feel like a team that's getting past the wild card round. They might get swept in 2 games in the wild card round. So if they don't really think they have the talent to do anything, would they really be that hesitant to trade Lamont Wade? It's like the Mariners, for example, right? We know why the Mariners traded Paul Sewald last year. Some people understood it. Most people understood it. There were still people that were unhappy with it out there in the Mariners world. But despite being a contending team, the Mariners still made that trade. So could the Giants be that sort of team this year where, sure, they're contending by definition, but they still go out and trade away some established players?
Nothing's impossible. Really?
Like if they're
going
to win, if they're going to win 78 games, I don't see why they're so inclined to hold on to Lamont Wade.
Here's a question I have. I'm wondering what his value will be 2 months from now. Because let's give some context. Right now, he's hurt. He'll probably be out the rest of this month. Right? I forget exactly what he hurt, but it was a 4-week minimum injury the last week of May. So that puts him back on the Giants roster end of June. Also, he's been a little lucky this year. Not going to lie. It helps that he walks 20% of the time. It shrinks the sample size, but his BABIP is over 460. It's a little high. It's a little. It just tells you that there's some regression in this profile. Now, still doesn't mean he's not hitting the ball at the best quality possible, which he is. Baseball Savant says so. But I will say it doesn't. because he's hitting like Barry Bonds a little bit this year, does not mean he's going to keep it up when the team pays the price of what he's currently hitting and what he actually does when he arrives on his new team, if he gets traded.
So he has a grade 2 left hamstring strain, for those that are interested. That'll keep him out a couple weeks, like you said.
Yeah.
Also, the 20% walk rate is crazy. 20%? That's nuts. Now, that probably won't sustain. The BABIP probably won't sustain. And there are questions of, say Lamont Wade's the secondary bat you acquire, right? This would be the best secondary bat you could probably acquire.
That would be a pretty insane secondary bat.
Oh,
I will note, this is the one guy, and I mentioned at the beginning, there's one guy who you could argue would be a number one bat, and it would be Lamont Wade.
okay. Then if he's the only bat you acquire, if he's the headline bat you acquire, that makes this a little different. But I was going to say, if you acquire Lamont Wade and Brent Rooker, if you acquire Lamont Wade and Vladdy, that does make some things tough to assemble with the roster. You'd probably move on from Haniger one way or another if you trade for an outfield bat. But then if you trade for, again, if you essentially flip out, let's say Wade for Haniger, then you've got a lot of left-handed bats all of a sudden. And if you were to acquire someone like Vladdy, how does that work with Vladdy, Wade, Ty, and Garver? So yeah, you're right. If they were going to acquire Lamont Wade, Lamont Wade might be the guy they acquire if they strike out on all the real A-level bats, but still want some impact at the deadline, and they settle for him, because then you can manage it.
Yeah, so then it would be Ty, Garver, and Wade you would have to find time for. And he's played in the outfield a little bit. So I think it's mostly been first base this year, but it doesn't mean he can't play in the outfield. You wouldn't be great in the outfield, but he'd be there.
And you could get him some DH days too by putting Garver at the backup catcher spot or giving Garver a day off. Yeah, right. You could make that work by just acquiring Lamont Wade. But if you have Wade and you try to acquire another A-level bat, I mean, it would make the team great. That would be awesome, because you would get two really good bats. How the Mariners would manage that roster-wise, I don't know. And for that reason, I don't know if they'd give up the prospect package that it would cost for each of those guys at once.
I think it would cost a lot to get Lamont Wade out of San Francisco.
I think
it wouldn't cost what you would pay for Vladdy, but based on where his stock is right now, yeah, I think so.
All right.
So just to think of I don't know. In the end, if you're trading for him again, I think you're right. So Garver would slide to the backup catcher role. I think Lamont Wade would DH. A good chunk of time, and then Ty would be at first.
Yeah, get some additional days at first in the outfield when you have to have him there, but probably he would mostly be DHing against right-handed pitching, yeah.
Right. So it's just, if you talk yourself into potentially sending a blue-chip prospect to San Francisco for Lamont Wade, because hitters like this, or not even all the A-tier guys that we talked about are hitting like this.
It's true. But you still feel like he would cost a blue chip prospect? I don't know.
The Giants have leverage since he's under contract next year.
Yeah, they do. I just was under the thought that it would cost somebody a little further down your pipeline. Again, maybe. I was even thinking, again, somebody a little lower, like maybe like the Arroyo range, like past that first real wave of guys.
That's interesting. I'm honestly not sure. Like I would say the numbers and perception are very different.
Yeah, they are. And again, I don't know what the rest of the league values Lamont Wade at. Do Jerry and Justin want to trade for a platoon left-handed bat? I don't know either. He's complicated. I would be very, very interested. I'd be happy if they acquired him, but he is a complicated trade piece.
Yeah, certainly.